Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that brings you the most fascinating facts from our world and beyond. Today, we're looking up, way up, into the silent darkness of space. But what if I told you it's not so silent? That orbiting right above our heads is a high-speed, invisible junkyard that threatens our future in space. We're talking about space debris and a frightening concept known as the Kessler Syndrome. Look up at the night sky. It seems peaceful, but circling our planet are millions of pieces of human-made junk. This isn't just a messy problem. It's a ticking time bomb. Let's break down the situation. As of 2024, space agencies are tracking over 39,000 large objects. This includes nearly 14,000 satellites, 2,000 old rocket bodies, and 23,000 fragments from past collisions and explosions. But here's the scary part. That's only what we can track. Scientists estimate there are about 1.2 million objects between 1 and 10 centimeters wide, and a mind-boggling 130 million objects smaller than that. Why does a 1-centimeter piece of junk matter? Because in orbit, everything travels at extreme speeds, thousands of miles per hour. Even a tiny fleck of paint can hit with the force of a bowling ball. The International Space Station constantly has to perform maneuvers to dodge this debris, a very real reminder of the danger. The problem is getting worse. For the first time ever in 2024, in the popular 500 to 600 kilometer altitude range, the amount of active satellites actually matched the amount of space debris. We're adding junk faster than ever, with an average of about 10 satellite breakups per year. This leads us to the Kessler Syndrome. Proposed back in 1978 by NASA scientist Donald Kessler, it describes a terrifying tipping point. The theory is that if the density of objects in orbit gets high enough, a single collision could set off a chain reaction. One satellite hits another, creating thousands of new pieces of debris. Each of those pieces then becomes a projectile, capable of hitting other satellites, creating even more debris. This cascade could eventually make entire orbits unusable, trapping us on Earth and cutting off the critical services we rely on. So, how did we get here? First, there's the sheer number of launches. With projections of up to 100,000 active satellites by 2030, mostly from large commercial constellations, low Earth orbit is becoming a very crowded highway. Second, things in space explode. Old satellites and rocket stages with leftover fuel or charged batteries can blow up years after their mission is over. And sadly, anti-satellite missile tests have also created massive, long-lasting debris clouds. Finally, this junk sticks around. In lower orbits, atmospheric drag will eventually pull debris down to burn up. But higher up, a piece of debris can stay in orbit for centuries, or even millennia. The consequences are huge. It's a direct threat to the operational satellites that provide our GPS, telecommunications, weather forecasting, and so much more. A major cascade could disrupt global economies. In fact, some experts talk about an economic Kessler Syndrome, where the cost and risk of operating in space becomes so high that it's just not worth it anymore. But it's not all doom and gloom. The world is waking up to the problem, and there are some truly brilliant people working on solutions for what we call space sustainability. One approach is debris mitigation. This means preventing new junk from being created. Engineers are designing satellites to completely burn up on re-entry, a concept called design for demise. They're also passivating spacecraft by venting leftover fuel so they can't explode later. And critically, new rules are emerging. The old 25-year rule for deorbiting a satellite is being replaced by a much stricter 5-year rule by agencies like the ESA and the FCC in the US. Then there's tracking. Better ground and space-based radar and telescopes help us create a more accurate map of the junk, which is essential for space traffic management. Think of it like air traffic control, but for space. And now for the really cool part, active debris removal. This is where we go up and clean the mess. Companies and agencies are developing incredible technologies to capture junk, from giant nets and harpoons to robotic arms and magnetic plates. There are even proposals to use lasers to gently nudge debris into a lower orbit, where it will burn up. Missions like Europe's Clear Space 1 are already paving the way. Ultimately, this requires global cooperation. The UN and other international bodies are pushing for guidelines, and initiatives like the Zero Debris Charter aim to stop the creation of new debris entirely by 2030. However, the hard truth is that even if we stopped all launches today, the amount of debris in low Earth orbit would continue to grow because of ongoing collisions. The Kessler Syndrome has, in a way, already begun. Achieving a sustainable future in space requires a combination of everything: better technology, stronger international rules, and a shared commitment to being responsible explorers. The final frontier is an incredible resource, but it's also a fragile environment. The actions we take now will determine whether space remains a gateway for discovery or a barrier of our own making. Thanks for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online. Join us next time as we explore another amazing corner of our universe.